Welcome. In today's video, we're going to dive into a masterclass on bar charts. What we're going to do is we're going to go from something like this, which is a perfect example of a poor report, poor visual, you can't make sense of it, to something that looks great and sexy like this. Very clear to understand. I'm going to walk you through these steps, how you can become a master at the bar chart. Let's dive into Power BI. All right, so here we are. Currently, there's a dashboard. I've used other videos to create components of this. You'll see filter pane selection dynamically working. You'll see KPI indicators using new conditional formatting to improve the interactivity. And today, we are going to focus on the bar chart. So, how do we do that? Let's close this thing and open this up. All right. Bar charts. What the goal is going to be for today is to create a bar chart that is simple. We're going to go through the steps for how to make it look simple, easy to understand, and uncomplicated. What we see a lot of is, well first let's just understand what this bar chart's doing. So it's in telling a story that allows me to interact by either drilling up, seeing the total male, total female population, so it's allowing interactivity, going down one level, seeing all the age groups combined, or going into a concatenated view that groups by gender and assignment, and age. So, as people interact, these values change. We can see the units total, units sold, green is good, red is bad, and the labels and everything are very clear. Total, per segment, and then a tooltip. So let's dive into this. What I'm going to do is just start fresh and show first the most common mistake. So, again, what a lot of people do is they're going to come into a place where they want to build a visual. So we're going to insert one. And we're going to choose the bar chart. Firstly, we're going to intentionally choose to rank items. As you can see, there's a up to down movement with that. So we're going to talk about the story. So the first mistake is people will use legends to tell the story. What does that mean, using legends to tell the story? Well, if we're going to go into data, say I know I want to show the units total. I want to see the total number of units that are sold, and I want to see it by gender. Then I will go to the gender section, add gender, male, female. Okay, great, but I want to dice this up by age as well. So as soon as we add age into there, you'll see you get legends, and it's going to start dissecting it. People even get to products, and it's not unknown to anybody to see the typical chart that looks something like this now, where you have just an over complexity of values that tell a story, especially in pie charts. People are dumping it in. So we're not going to do any of that. We're going to say, how do we get to this table right here that's clean and understandable? Formatting and value selection is the key thing. It's all about story, formatting, story. So the story is, I want to be able to analyze in a quick way, both by gender and age, the units total, and the percentages of those, or the visual representation of ones that are sold versus ones that are returned. So let's start this process, and through this I will talk through each of the components of the bar chart as well. So let's start fresh. I'm going to insert a bar chart. So the first problem is, again, the story. So I'm going to use units total. I know that's the main component for the value. And then off of that value, let's look at these sections that are available to us. So we'll have the y-axis, grouping the values. We'll have additional things we can do for the axis itself, as well as legend and small multiples. So what does that mean? Well, what I care about first is within the value section, I want to analyze by the returned or sold. So I'm not going to add it like I just did to the y-axis, but I'm going to take this and add it to the legend. So what this is doing is for any bar, it's going to show me the number that's returned and the number that's sold. Again, the colors don't tell a story yet, but they will. Every color, every formatting is intentional. The very detailed formatting you see is intentional. It's all purposeful, and as well as removing the fluff. So we know we want to see units sold by status. Great. Now, how do we organize it? Well, if we come into our customer, I know that I want to do gender. So male and female. But what can happen, and now you have this chart down here that's mirrored it similarly, is if I want to start looking at, say, age groups. Well, if I build a hierarchy of y-axis values like I just did, I can separate this into subcomponents or even its own top level component. What does that mean? So with the chart that's on the bottom, it has age under gender for the y-axis. So let's talk about what these mean. Right now I'm on gender, the top level. So if I just want to see the aggregate totals for a sub-level of the y-axis, then I can simply click the next level in the hierarchy. And now it's taking those exact same totals and aggregating them based upon age. But then what the hierarchy adds the value of is this. So say we're here and I want to compare male versus female. Well, the way it's set up currently, I'd have to click female. Okay, look, all right, 3,000. Okay, what about male? Okay. You know, I want people to see the story if they choose to see it. So if you have a hierarchy built, we can drill down in the age. So we'll come to the expand one level down in the hierarchy. And what you can see now is the data groups itself. So what I'm going to do is make this a little bit bigger. And let's start building that over here. So the way to do that is I'm going to take age, drag it under the y-axis, and just confirm it works. You can do that by coming up here, clicking down, and you can see it works. We're going to go through each of these sections as well to talk about, you know, how we're going to format it. And so I think that's what we're ready to dive into. We know the story. The story being age and gender are the two key ways I want people to analyze this data and interact with it. So let's just start next with the formatting. The first thing about bar charts are bars. So let's have them make sense. Something being returned is red. Something being sold is green. Green's good, red's bad. And to do that, again, I'm going to close out some of these tiles to make the screen a little bit bigger. Under the visual section of the format tab, you can, and again, if your format tab's on the visual, I always like to right click and move it over to this section. As you can see, you can have the option to move it to visual. I like it to have it on the right. It just separates things for me. Right hand side details, left hand side presentation layer. So the bars, I've set them up. Spacing within a bar, you can tweak this. So there's some charts which look very good when you have no space and it's connected, especially if you have a y-axis that's almost so granular you don't display it, like days throughout a year, 365 rows. You can merge these all together to create a very cool looking chart. In this case, because I know the first step with building a chart is I want to have, if possible, scrolling is not needed. So since I know that these values all display, then I know I have some room to work with. Otherwise I could shrink things, make them smaller to get more and more space on the pane. Again, scrolling has to happen sometimes, you can always do it. but it's good for the users just to be able to see it without having to scroll. Again, sometimes you're gonna have a product list that's so large. But when you're using segmentation, you want to make sure that you don't put too many things on there like we did with the product. We added the product, there's 500 million colors on the chart, it makes 0 sense. Keep it simple. Returned and sold, green good, red bad. All right, let's keep going. So, another key thing with charts, I'm gonna drill this one up just to make some more room here. Make this a little bit bigger. Is let's cut the fluff when it comes to formatting. To start, I always like to look at the axis. The x-axis, well, I know that these are counting values going to the right. I'm gonna add the labels soon to know what those values are. It's kind of redundant. I don't need to know 2Ks here. Again, if I just turn these labels on, the first step of it, I know this is about 2K and where 4K is. I don't need these things. So for the x-axis, let's turn that title off as well as the values themselves. I want to maximize the room, maximize the space, declutter, get rid of things that people don't need to see. Let's go to the y-axis. Well, age is redundantly not needed. Obviously there's a male and a female. I don't need to say what it is. You should be able to tell. So I'm going to remove the title, and having done that, we get more room to work with. Another important thing that you'll see sometimes with the y-axis is that things are not or are grouped, and that's essentially a concatenate label. So watch what happens if I click this. It just took male, or whatever the first item is in the hierarchy, and appended it or concatenated it to the sub-hierarchy level. It's male, 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 female, female, male, female, female. That can be good sometimes, but typically, again, we want to minimize clutter, group things logically. This very simplistically, male, female, male. Well, now we can see what's going on here. And again, we'll get into sorting later on as well. So let's keep looking at this. All right, so let's go to data labels. We have the axis cleaned up. Well, let's keep around the perimeter actually. So we're gonna look at the title. Some people like titles. I have a problem with them. I want to try to avoid them as much as possible. If of every chart and every table, everything has a title, and you need the title to explain what it is, then it's redundant and it's potentially just wasted space. So if I look at this, I can tell this is counting units total or units returned, units sold by gender and age. And I don't need a title to tell me that. So within the section, there are again reasons why you would or could potentially need a title, and you can add dynamic colors, just like some of the other videos I've showed where you can get in here and conditionally format color titles to change based on good or bad or whatever you want. But in this case, we're going to remove the title and declutter it. Let's keep looking at one other action we can declutter. The legend. If we have a legend, the purpose of it is going to be to inform people of what the categories are that the values are being divided by. What you typically want is a simple legend that doesn't have more than like 3 to 7 values, and beyond that it just is a big clustered mess. So as our legend is simple, it's valuable to put it in the beginning of what the visual is, because it's going to tell the reader as they go down the page, this is what that color translates to. Versus if you go under options and say you put it in the bottom center, well, if it's down here and I start, my first question is, okay, what's red mean? Well, I got to look down here, and that takes half a second, and then come back up, and you just, eyes go top to bottom. So allow us to give them information in the same way from top to bottom. All right, so now that is a decluttered bar chart. It's simple, it's still informative. Some key things again to talk about are the interactivity, where I can show by a total grouping of the first level of a hierarchy, I can show the next level of a hierarchy, the total grouping, or I can combine them into a group segmentation. So now let's look at the data labels. And this is where some formatting is fun, more conditional formatting is valuable. Oh, also with the legend, I don't need to say the word status. It's obvious one is returned, one is sold, it's gonna coordinate to the units total, so get rid of it. Just get rid of words that aren't needed. It's gonna give you more space on your dashboard, it's gonna give the user less to consider, and the less you give them to consider, the more they can intake what you've actually presented to them. So continuing. Now on to data labels. So the first thing I want to do with data labels is enable people to not have to ask a question. So if we turn this off and there's nothing there, obviously the first question is, all right, well, how much is that? Well, data labels will allow that, but the key first thing is a total label. Because the first question I see when I look at this is I see, okay, that's 5.8 thousand, that's 2.1 thousand, together it's 7.9 thousand, but I don't want to have to count that, I want to see it. So turn on total labels as well. Now you have labels and you have space. So when you are forced to use space, use it. What I mean by that is we're not receiving any benefit by shrinking the auto format of these labels to abbreviated amounts. We're actually losing the precision. 2000, 2003, 4, 6. I want to know what the real details are. So let's start doing that by focusing on the total labels first. Total labels, what I'm going to do is I always like to just get this font as small as possible, 8, and display units equates to how do you want the value represented. Automatically, it's a good way if space is a limitation that is valuable. In our case, it's not, and ideally it's not. So we're going to use none, and we want to have precision. So that does stand out, but you can see below, I kind of want to call it out. I don't want it to blend in where you have an axis label and this is the same thing. It kind of just loses the definition, where down here you can actually see it. So under the value section of a total label, you can enable a background as well. So in this case, we're going to pick the black that I use, and the transparency, we're gonna mess with it to something we like. Not too dark, not too light, but the words are gone. Well, obviously we want those to pop. Inverse relationships of color. This font's dark, background's white. Let's make this font white, background dark. All right, well, now without a doubt, I know this is 5,797 for that grouping. And again, as I interact with it, those totals will continue over wherever we decide to navigate to. So if we keep on this view, it's looking cleaner. Well, let's add and define how we want our data labels to work. Go into data labels on the right-hand side, and this is more functionality, probably where some of the most functionality is on this visual. Because what you have here is the ability to control a couple of things. You can set formatting for the holistic data label. So all in this series I'm clicking on represents every data label independent of the legend that I've placed on there. So what you can do is dive into just legend specific. And the more we take a few minutes to have subtle changes of green is good, red is black, or red is bad, then that will just tweak that more in the user's eyes. What does that look like? So I'm going to pick the series of sold on the right hand side, and for the position, this section is going to allow you to move that data label. Inside at the end, well, I don't like it there because it's so close to this other number that it just mixes in my brain. I need things separated. So if we go inside base, it's going to start right where the color starts, and it's going to project what's going to come through it to the total. So let's use that. And now for the values, we are gonna have some formatting options. In this case, let's start with the background. So I want the background on, and I'm gonna choose a background that again is going to open up the section. So if you say I pick white, now it is white, but it's almost like too white. You need a little bit of something there just to let that green come through slightly. Background is set very simplistically. Now values, as we have sold selected, well, I want this value to come through in the same dark green. Cool, it's matching, it's very subtle. And keep it at 8. The display units, we have tons of space, set it to 9. Let's get some details. I don't need the abbreviations. Again, if you wanted more decimal places, you could add it. You could always go for that. But in this case, we're gonna keep it that way. So let's go to returned and do the same thing. We want a background, and we want the color of the background to be white, just slightly transparent. And that, actually, let's be precise. Go back to sold, 8%, come to returned, pick 8%. Good. Now let's check out that value. We're going to turn that to the same red. Returned is bad. We're going to go down to the values, and we want the display units to be none. So look at that. Now what we've done is we have a chart, even if we make this bigger. It's very simple to understand. It is not confusing, but it's also elegant. When you apply it into a dashboard that's telling other stories as well, now your holistic experience is making sense. It's all about the holistic experience. So when we look at this, now if I say select female, select male, everything on the entire dashboard is changing. If I pick a month, again, the red colors are moving. Red's bad, green is good. March, okay, things dropped. The total amount, 2403. What is the purpose and the story of the chart below? Well, it takes that 2,403 total units and splits them up over male and female from categories across the board. And I can see the granularity. But it enables the end user to go up or to go down. Let's get rid of that. Or go down based upon whatever level they might want to see. Maybe a more simplistic aggregation, like so. Again, interacting with the filters. So with that process, you can literally build any sort of very clean table that your end users will find enjoyable to consume. So enjoy this. Thank you for watching, and have a great day. Bye.